Welcome to another episode of Live from the Blue Seats. I'm your host, Rob, joined by Dave and producer JL. John-Luc Shapiro is here doing the yeoman work of producing this podcast on a Friday morning. We usually record on Thursday night, but some prior engagements made Friday morning a little bit better of an option this week. So lots to talk about. The rumor mill starting to churn, Chris Kreider returning to MSG. Lots of questions from all of our listeners as usual. Dave, how are you?
I am good. I have no issues right now. I am going to risk jinxing it, but for the last 8 nights, my 2-year-old went down without a fight in 7 of them. I didn't have to sit there for an hour. So hopefully she's turning a corner, though she is a clone of me. So most likely she's just going to go back to being a mild terrorist for a little bit.
Yeah. JL, how about you? Checking in with you.
I'm doing all right. I'm alive. I'm breathing. My asthma's still pretty good, but I'm still single, so that's kind of not good, but that's okay.
I think we gotta start up like a dating podcast here on the side for you.
Ladies, JL literally saved my dog from the storm today. You know, these 60-mile-an-hour winds. My dog just got blown away, and JL's like, I think I found Rocket and just dropped them off. Yeah, and that's impressive because
I have telekinetic powers. Yeah, I have telekinetic powers, so that means that I'm really good around the kitchen. So,
and
but I'm doing well.
Use the force. Telekinetic powers are basically using the force without the mind control.
Right. In any event,
your lightsaber.
JL, you're a great dude. Don't worry about, you don't need validation from anyone else. Yourself.
Yeah.
But no, I like I said, maybe a dating show as a spinoff of Live from the Blue Seats. We'll have to workshop that. All right, so we've got a lot to get to. We do want to keep it to a little bit more of a tight, maybe under an hour, as opposed to the 95-minute marathon that you all had last week. As fun as that was, we get so many great questions, so we do want to make sure we get to all those. The main story from this week was Chris Kreider as the headlining returner to Madison Square Garden, alongside Jacob Trouba, who, for my own personal feelings aside, had a very significant 5.5-year tenure for the team, former captain of the team. Any initial thoughts from you guys on the return? Obviously, the Rangers lose the game. That was certainly the downside, and just one of the most recent in a string of very frustrating home losses, which has been a theme of this season. But just on Chris Kreider specifically, how did you feel seeing him in Ducks white and orange, which is still a weird color combo, even though they've had that for a few years now? And what did you think of the Garden's tribute reception, all that stuff? Either of you could take that first.
So JL, you were there.
Wow, I didn't know you went to the game, JL.
It was part of my ticket plan, so I wasn't not gonna not go. I did wear my Chris Kreider jersey that night, as many of us did. You definitely felt the love for Kreider. The second he got out on the ice, when the game before they started the anthem, usually when they skate on the ice before the puck drop, the reception was pretty nice. It was more than nice. It was actually very welcoming, and you can hear a smattering of people talking around it, just like, we never should have traded him, like that. And there were a lot of people who were actually, it was a very nice sort of introduction. And then when he got the puck for the first time, everyone seemed to kind of, give him his, his due, his cheers. And then after the first time out, they did the tribute video, which I thought was really well done. It was very heartfelt. You could tell there was a lot of love and effort put into it. And the reception was nice. You could definitely feel the love in the building that they had for him that night. It was definitely weird. I took a photo for my seat. It's just weird. I've gone to so many Ranger games over the years, and I've I've just been so used to seeing him in the blue and red, and now I see him in the orange, white, and it threw me off. But it was a nice reception. Thankfully, he didn't score a goal, which I think would have just kind of made it better for some. But I'm glad he didn't score because I wanted the Rangers to shoot themselves in the foot anyways. I want them to win, of course, but no, it was just the tribute was really nice. It was longer than the other one, which I'll get to in a second. But compared to Truba, it was definitely nice. You could tell they really put a lot of work and effort into that. I thought it was nice, and he seemed very gracious. Came out on the ice twice to wave to everybody. So it was good. It was very heartfelt. I liked it. It
Yeah.
was nice to see him back at the Garden.
Yeah, that surprised me too when I saw the video of it. Obviously, I wasn't there, but that he did kind of like a full lap and a half and really, took the time to soak it in and acknowledge the fans. That's very unlike him. We know he's not comfortable in those scenarios. He is such a, it's a bit of a cliche, but he's a true like team first guy, hates talking about himself, just has that very humble personality, always has. Dave, I feel like you are similar to me in that, and as we learned last week, we had some of the same favorite players growing up, but as we've gotten older, it's become so much more about the team and taking a little bit more of a cold analytical look at the team as a whole. Right. Um, maybe not getting as attached to some of these players, but I think you tweeted this or posted it, that seeing Kreider back was going to be difficult emotionally. It was going to be an emotional night. How did it register with you?
Well, it would have been nice to actually see the video tribute, but MSG has to get that ad revenue, and they fucking cut the commercial.
Yeah, well,
during that.
they did post it on social, but yes, I know.
That's
yeah.
it.
No, they shouldn't have cut to commercial. I agree with you.
Yeah, I really have to give MSG a lot of shit for this, because every time we've had these welcome backs, they let us watch. They don't cut the commercial. They know that people watching at home want to see. But when it's Kreider, they cut the commercial because I don't fucking know. I was really annoyed by that. But as for the actual seeing Kreider, that was weird. That was really weird seeing him in a Ducks uniform. I'm happy he didn't score, but then again, Trouba had an assist, so
He did, yeah.
we didn't keep everybody off the score sheet. The video, then when I finally saw it, was very well done. I do think they did Kreider first, because he's
Yeah.
Kreider, so you kind of have to lead with him. But I feel like there was a little bit of shade thrown at Jacob Trouba by doing Kreider's first, because how is Jacob Trouba going to be able to follow that kind of video and reception given everything that happened? And I think he should be happy that boos and trues sound alike.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no response basically for Trouba. But as for Kreider, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is, and I certainly had more of an attachment to him than most of the other players from his era and from the recent teams. But I thought the Rangers did a great job. I agree with you too. It's tough to then do the Trouba one after him, but you had to do Kreider first. And I'm glad they did. That was the right thing to do. Yeah. Well, so JL, I heard mixed things about Trouba, that obviously a lot of people thought it was booing originally, but then it was, oh, right, of course, true for the, that's what fans did after he would throw a big hit. Hard to distinguish, as Dave said.
Yeah.
What did you think, though, being in the building? Like, how was the reception? Was it mostly positive, or was it decidedly mixed?
I want to say, well, how can I put it? It was weird. You could tell there was a bit of a mixed reaction to it. Especially the fact that Kreider's tribute was probably close to 3 minutes long, if you think about it. It was
the video was like 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Along with like the applause and him going around the ice, you're talking about a good 3 minutes of just adoration, right? And the emotion was there. You could feel the love in the building, like I said. But for Trouba, because again, here's the thing. There have been instances in the past where they have done this for multiple players who, in one game. Like I remember the one time when Girardi left and then they traded McDonough and Miller. I mean, they kind of put them together, but all three of them had their moment in the sun when they came back, because I was at that game. That was Filipino's first NHL goal that night. And it was very elaborate for each of the three of them. So they're capable of doing this for multiple players. What they did for Truba and the reception was more of just kind of, at least in my opinion, yeah, they did there was some boos, myself included, but I did do the true thing, right? But the thing is that it was the reception in the video was very muted. And I think he can tell, he was able to tell, yeah, we applauded, whatever, but his video was like 30 seconds. And not only was his video like 30 seconds, I think he skated out and he kind of just like waved to the fans, and then he just went back and that was it. And then they did a thing on the scoreboard after that. So you can definitely tell that there was, I don't want to say overall the positioning of the tributes was the shade, but I do think that because of the length and the kind of mutedness of the tribute, that's where I think they did the shade, all things considered, because I know that the Rangers are very I don't want to. The term is thing, which means like they're on top of it. That's sort of like a local thing that we say here, but they're very like on top of things, and they were definitely like, yeah, this is just kind of gonna be on the side. Mind you, this guy was a captain, right? Now he hasn't been here as long as Kreider, but I mean, still you would think that, he scored some pretty big goals in the playoffs. It's not like he wasn't good here. He definitely had more than just a regular like 20, 30-second video. It's like, thank you, Truba. Okay, that's it. But you can tell there's still some, they just did it more that they had to do it. I was honestly not expecting them to do anything, truth be told. But
no, I guess that's possible. I think honestly, the fact that Kreider was there too, I think made it a little easier on them because, and on Trouba too, frankly, like everybody knew that the focus would be on Kreider. He was the longest tenured Ranger. He's third all time in goals. It's just, he was always going to get the longer video and a very warm reception. So I think the Rangers handled it well ultimately. Like, I won't dodge an opportunity to criticize the organization, but like, I think it makes sense to have Kreider. Like, he was a drafted homegrown player. Yeah, he wasn't captain, but also the captain thing is weird with the Rangers. Not all their captains have been great players. The fans are not involved in the selection of the captain. I think if they were, Kreider would have been the captain. And, it's just a different thing, So, no, look, I think when you step back from it, and again, I'm also putting some of my personal feelings about Trouba and like all the Larry Brooks stuff aside here, like, they were both part of a lot of successful teams. And, say what you want about the decision to trade for Trouba, give him that massive extension, and sort of make him the centerpiece of your shutdown pair. Those teams made 2 Eastern Conference Finals, and the Rangers were not in a 10 or 15-year rebuild. They were in a 3-year rebuild, and they were back in the playoffs competing. So as fans, like, what more do you want? Like, I mean, we're sitting here with a team in front of us now that has more questions than answers, and we'll get to all that, but success is more fun. Winning is more fun. Goals are more fun. We can get on here and talk about the analytics and the underlying problems all we want. It's really fun when the team is good and scoring 5 goals a game and winning 52 games a year. And those guys were part of seasons like that. So, no, listen, really good stuff. I do want to move on. Like I said, going to keep this train moving. Trouba reference there. On to some of the rumor mill stuff that is starting to churn up. And this is really, as you both know, roster freeze aside with the holidays approaching, this is when the market starts to activate in the NHL, right? The Quinn Hughes trade happens, and that sets off that's your first, big marker in the sand for the rest of the executives in the league. Okay, that's what a star player is going for now, right? That's in that type of trade. Now you have your model for the 2025-26 season of kind of a blockbuster in-season trade. Chris Johnston reported, Dave, and if you want to give a little more color to this, that the Rangers are quote unquote interested in trading for a game breaker. How do you interpret that?
Desperately to trade.
Okay. So yeah, why don't you take it from there? Cause I didn't even know it was trying desperately. That sounds bad. Cause to me, you don't ever want to be desperate, but, what is your kind of take on and read on that little bit of news from Johnston? And is he a reliable source?
So Johnston is reliable as like a Saravalli or an Elliot Friedman.
Right.
Now, he's one of those national guys that does have at least something credible. As for the Rangers trading for a game breaker, I mean, I think we all knew that they wanted to do something massive to change the lingering issues in the locker room, which I believe are mostly at this point Panarin related. I don't think there's a Zibanejad related because just of the way he's played and the way his body language has changed this year, I don't think it's Zibanejad anymore. I think it's mostly Panarin, which Arthur Staples said Panarin is more willing to waive his no move clause and finish the season elsewhere. So whenever I hear Rangers wanted to trade for a game breaker, Rangers don't have any goals, Rangers don't have any stars. All I can think about is looking at the Dallas Stars and Jason Robertson is still unsigned.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I can't think of anybody else who could potentially be available that the Rangers would consider a game breaker. I know everybody has a hard on for Brady Tkachuk. Ottawa's in a playoff spot. They're not trading Brady Tkachuk.
Ottawa's good too. Like they are not
Yeah.
like they've been good the last few years. I know they didn't. Did they make it last year? They might have. I think they did. They did. Yeah. They lost in the first round, but
Oh wait, they're not in a playoff spot. They have 3 games in hand on most teams, but
Right.
they will probably pass a team like Boston pretty soon.
by points percentage, they're probably in a better spot because again, the way the game's played of shaking out right now, there's a lot of teams like the Rangers who have played 35 or 36, and there's a few that have played 32 or 33. So yeah, keep in mind, look at points percentage is what I'm going to remind everybody to do, not the total points, because Ottawa's going to be fine. I agree with you. They're probably going to make the playoffs, and they're not in a state where they're going to start selling. That just wouldn't make any sense. All right, so other than Jason Robertson, who's out there? I don't know.
Going through cap wages, I don't see anybody. Like, unless we want to go get Austin Matthews.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I did not know. I'm glad you corrected me there, Dave, midstream, that the tweet was, or the post was phrased that they're trying desperately. That's alarming to me, frankly.
Let me get the exact wording so that it sounded. I don't put Drury as somebody who is going to. Okay, fucking Twitter. I can't pull up the tweet because Elon Musk ruined something that didn't need to be fixed. Anyway, Drury's not a desperation guy, but it sounds like it was more of he's working hard, trying to see who's available and what he can do and where the match is. I mean, we knew they were in on Quinn Hughes. The Rangers did not have the pieces to compete with a Marco Rossi or a Zeev.
Boyum.
Thank
Boyum.
you.
Yeah, Boyum.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So they would never have been able to match that offer. I don't see who else is out there unless Tage Thompson. And no, not unless he becomes available, but that's it. And Tage Thompson isn't going to be available.
JL, what do you make of the Panarin side of this rumor that he's now more willing to waive his no trade? And do you think if that opens up options for the Rangers now, is that something you think they should explore, is moving on from Panarin?
100%. I mean, speaking hockey only, because I always have to preface this whenever I talk about him these days. Speaking hockey only, he did more than what he needed to do here. He was very productive. Some people want to talk about playoffs, when it comes to, his lack of production, but he had some pretty key playoff goals for this team.
That's for sure. Yeah.
He's been a very productive player. You don't go to 2 Eastern Conference Finals without him, him being there. But at this point, with everything that's gone on, and it seems like it's just kind of being more of a detriment than anything in terms of the locker room and honestly his bit of the decline this season in terms of just his production. I think you do it. If it were that he wasn't surrounded by so much controversy, I think maybe you probably entertain potentially keeping him here on a shorter term deal with less money, but he doesn't seem open to that. And it just kind of seems like, this, I don't want to say the system isn't fitting him well, but it just kind of seems like he's just not really, it's kind of a square peg in a round hole at this point, because, you look at the way that you look at the way the team plays, and it doesn't exactly fit really what Panarin does as a player anymore at this point in his career. And it just seems like an off fit. They've put him with pretty much almost they put him up with everybody at this point, and maybe this is age coming through, but he just doesn't seem to really be the same. And you would think that in a system that generates more chances, he would have more, he would at least have a bit more goals this time around, but he doesn't. So I think with everything that's gone on, I think if they can find a way to move him and get rid of that $11 million cap hit, then I think that would benefit both Panarin and primarily the Rangers, because then they can finally, you know, go and get somebody, or at least that gives a space for somebody that can come in. And I really think that Jason Robertson is who they're targeting, honestly. And I'm really with Dave on that. I think Jason Robertson is the guy, because he was linked to the Rangers before. He still hasn't been signed yet. We saw it with the other free agents from Eichel and McDavid and Kaprizov. There was teams who were willing to lock them up real quick, and I was wrong about that they were going to let them slip. Dallas hasn't done it yet, so I think change of scenery kind of stuff. I think Robertson's the guy, and I think Panarin should just go at this point.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say is, and let's again put the off ice component of this aside, of course, this is probably the single best, and this is not a novel take, obviously, but it's probably the single best free agent signing the Rangers have ever made, right? They lured him from rivals. They paid him a lot of money. He produced worth, and some seasons beyond what he was worth, his cap hit. And they paid for his prime. And I think the mistake you'd be making if you brought him back is you wouldn't be paying him for his prime. You'd be paying him for his decline. And it's not going to be as good as his prime. And it would be one thing. So it's funny that Dallas keeps coming up in these discussions, because Dallas to me is the model that the Rangers are trying to follow here, where they kind of have their, old guard in place still with Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, Miro Heiskanen, but they've also were able to restock their pipeline and bring up young kids and now players that are in their prime, like Rupe Hintz and a couple of other guys, Jason Robertson, one of them. We'll see if they hang on to him. It would be one thing if the Rangers had that level of talent coming up behind Panarin, and the argument would be, okay, we're good enough. We have this really great nucleus of talent. By the way, that was supposed to be Hedel, Kakko, Lafreniere, K'Andre Miller. By the way, like that. So just so we're all clear, that was what the Rangers should have had as the core of this team. And for one reason or another, it didn't work out, or for multiple reasons, it didn't work out. Right. So now they have to rebuild the most important part of their roster, which is their young core, because they don't have one, and they have an old core and nothing coming up behind it. So like I was saying, if they had a solid young core in place, you could convince me that signing Panarin would make sense, because he could sort of play in a scoring only, like second line and top power play, role. And, you could sort of slowly decrease his minutes as he gets into his age 35, 36 seasons. Right. But you could still take advantage of like the best of what he could still do at that age. Now it just doesn't make sense. They're not in that position. And to have, even a semi-large contract on the books for Artemi Panarin moving into the next few years would make absolutely no sense to me. So if you're not re-signing him, you have to trade him. And to me, his presence, sure, it helps. He leads them in scoring, but look, they just played the St. Louis Blues, and they looked like the exact same team as they did against Vancouver and against the Ducks and against the Canadiens. And as they have most of the season, they have a lot of puck possession. They defend well. They can't score, whether Panarin's there or not. So to me, trade him. He didn't play in the St. Louis game. The Rangers won the game in overtime. That's not ultimately the point. It's more that, to your point, JL, like they have a style. That style doesn't really optimize Artemi Panarin. He's a nice addition to it because he's so talented. He could score whenever he wants, but you might as well just move on, continue giving opportunities to younger players. So, but I'm with you guys. Like, other than Jason Robertson, there's nothing out there. And that's what
I've been doing research while you've been talking.
Love it.
So
productive.
The LA Kings have 88 goals on the season total through 34 games. 88. And you thought the Rangers couldn't fucking score. Where do you think something like Quentin Byfield might fall if the Rangers were to dangle, say, Lafreniere in a 1-for-1 change of scenery trade, or in a Panarin trade, sign and trade, or trade and sign, something like that. However you want to phrase it, the Rangers sign him, then trade him, or they trade Panarin to the Kings with a condition that if he re-signs, the Rangers get XYZ.
Sorry, so you cut out. I think we're having slight
Oh.
internet issues here. But who is the player from the Kings you'd be targeting?
Quentin Byfield.
He said Quentin Byfield.
I don't think they would do that. I don't think there's a chance.
Maybe not for Panarin, but would they do a Lafreniere one for one? The
'Cause
Rangers
Kopitar's
wouldn't, or
the Kings wouldn't. Kopitar's retiring. They don't have any other centers.
that's a good point.
They're trying to trade Philip Dano too.
With Alan Walsh said absolutely not. That's not true.
What's not? Dano.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
Well,
means
either
he's
way,
an agent, so
you know.
Right. I just don't see the Kings doing it. I mean, it's a good thought, Dave, and stranger things have happened, right? Byfield's not lighting the world on fire, but he's a big center. Kopitar's on his way out. I don't see it, but again, I could be wrong. I think they love Panarin though this year, because are they in a playoff spot? The Kings?
yes.
I mean, I think they would probably be willing to pay a King's ransom for Panarin at the deadline.
The Kings ransom.
Yes, I've been doing that a lot lately. Wow, man, we get on the train, King's ransom.
Oh man,
fully in
the
dad
puns are
mode.
flowing, I'll tell you that much.
Oh man.
All right, let me just look at their signed prospects, see if there's anything interesting.
Yeah, and do they have all their draft picks?
You know-
Because to me, I'd be hunting draft picks too.
So
Multiple.
there's
My pipe
go for it.
dream for LA would be that they give us Adrian Kempe, but I know
Nope.
that's not going to happen considering he just signed an extension with them too.
yeah, they
I
just
think
signed him.
Yeah, I think Adrian Kempe would be perfect for this team, and he's one of my favorites. I just love the fact that he's just like a pure shooter. That I think they would. It kind of reminds me watching him play, at least from the times that I have seen him play. It's essentially what Panarin should be doing, where he can just take a shot from any part of the ice and just pop it in the back of the net. And that's the thing that annoys me, is that all of this with the quote unquote lack of scoring, I can't say quote unquote because they are not scoring a lot of goals, the Rangers, is that there's not somebody on the ice that can really do that, even though Zibanejad has the capability to do it, and also Panarin has the capability to do it. But like, at least maybe on the right side of the ice, presumably, that they just don't have a guy that could just come down the wing and just like fire it through. Now I know that doesn't happen as often as it would in like 1997, but it's nice to have somebody on the power play that who can just wire it through, which Panarin used to do and Zibanejad used to do it. For some reason, they just can't do it for some reason, and Adrian Kempe would be that, but he's not coming here, so that sucks.
So I wonder. So I'm still doing digging on LA. They have their first round pick this year, which would have to be in for any kind of Panarin trade. I am looking at left-handed defensemen in the minors right now, and Jared Woolley caught my eye. 6'4", 214. So obviously right there, big guy, can skate. He's got 8 goals, 14 assists in 31 games in the OHL this year. He's 19.
When was he drafted?
Hold on, gotta go back to that page. 2024 sixth round pick.
Last year.
6th rounder. Jeez.
6th rounder. Yeah, I saw that, but I'm also looking beyond just when they were drafted, because as we know, we can't really go based off that. And hold on, I'm looking at others. Angus Booth has the single greatest name ever.
Great name.
No, I don't know. But I'm also trying to figure out what Drury wants, which is the toughest part of this, because it seems Drury doesn't necessarily want too many Euros. He wants more of a North American, North-South game, which, by the way, when you go full North-South, like the Rangers have been doing, you lose offensive creativity, which is why the Rangers, one of the reasons why the Rangers can't fucking score is they eliminated the entire East-West aspect of the game. And you can't do that. Like, you
Yeah.
just can't do that.
Vince Mercogliano did a really good long write up in The Athletic about that with Shayna Goldman. I think it was a co-written piece. And yeah, they're dumping it a lot more. They're recovering the puck at a high rate, which is good to see, but they are definitely not creating off the rush as much. They have a lot of rush goals. It's one of those weird things, right? Like, so Valaket will say like the Rangers have X amount of goals off the rush, but they definitely do not prioritize making plays in the offensive zone as they enter the offensive zone as much as they used to, unless it's a clear 2-on-1 type of advantage or a breakaway, right? It is so dump heavy. And the problem with that is that, like you said, Dave, like they do create some chances, but they, and there was some talk about like, are they not lifting the puck enough? And like, I think there's a lot of like, hockey's a really difficult sport with that stuff. It's like, sometimes you have an opportunity to get your head up and pick your spot. Sometimes you just have to get it off your stick really quickly. And the Rangers are creating a lot of like broken play chances, which are the type of chances that you don't always have the chance to pick a spot, right? You're just whacking the puck at the goalie because you're in tight quarters, right? Because it's off of a rebound or a block shot and the puck trickles through. Like, there is not a lot of smooth tape to tape. Like, wow, they connected 4 or 5 passes and the puck's in the back of the net. They used to do that all the time, and that was the crux of their game, right? And look, now that style, if you really play that style of hockey through and through, has a ceiling, as we know. You're not able to grind games out against teams like Florida when you get deep in the playoffs, and Tampa, which was the case in 2022. And as a matter of fact, you usually get ground down to a pulp, which is what happened to the Rangers in both those series. But the lack of creativity in the offensive zone, I couldn't agree more, Dave. That's the main issue. Like, JL, you keep saying like, why aren't these guys who used to score, like they used to, like they were so used to Panarin, like firing pucks, off the post and in, and Zibanejad, one timers into the roof of the net. Like, they don't have the chances to make those plays because they don't get set up in like advantageous offensive positions. Like, everything's like a rebound off of a point shot, or it's like a tight pass from behind the net, and the guy's 2 feet from the goalie, so he's just jamming it into his pads. It's a different style of game. It's resulted in some better overall 5-on-5 play from an underlying metrics perspective, but the end result is not there.
Well, I'll add this too, just from what I've been able to see overall, just in the terms of the way that they play. I think it's also personnel too, presumably, because there have been some opportunities that I've seen, at least in the offensive zone, where, if they're not just standing around doing nothing, they really have the opportunity to do it. I'll say it, which is more the frustrating thing than anything. It's kind of like, how can I put it? So one thing I've noticed, and we've touched on this before, is that the defense is definitely playing a bigger part, and something that Dave talked about the other day was that he said he didn't notice that in one game, an observation when we were talking about the defenseman moving the puck up, I think it was like Will Borgen and Braden Schneider. They were bringing the puck up to like the blue line and then making a pass. But then I noticed after the fact that the defense was actually skating it to the red line and actually presumably probably taking it to the other blue line and taking a bigger push into the offensive zone. Now, why do I say that? Because then that leads to, better chances. And then what annoys me the most, and I've seen them do this a lot, is they'll be able to get those chances where they can shoot a puck on net with a good cycle, and that's the one thing they've been really adept at. And you can, like you said, with the 5-on-5 play has gotten a lot better. Their possession metrics are really good, where they can actually possess in the zone. And even in the Vancouver game, when they looked terrible in portions of the game, they had a few moments where they were just completely on Vancouver, moving the puck around. The problem is that they would take a shot, and it would either get blocked, and this has been the case in numerous other games. They would take a shot, it would get blocked, or then the puck would just go to the point and they would just toss it on, which is fine in a nutshell, because you're creating a chance, but you're also giving the puck away if you can't get a rebound, right? So I think, though, when they've cycled on numerous occasions where they've been able to get up and tight, usually the chance that, and this happens with Panarin a lot too, I've noticed, they'll have a cycle, Panarin will find his way to the dot, and he has a shooting lane. He'll either pass it, and Zibanejad's also, guilty of this too. they'll pass it and then forego the shot, and then the puck goes out of the zone. They don't get another chance for like another 2 shifts. So the opportunity for them to do it is there because the cycle is what creates the shot opportunity. They're just passing it up. I get it. You want to make the nice play, but after a bit, you just have to put it on net.
And
Yeah.
You know,
and that's the difference between the Rangers dump and chase and the Florida Panthers dump and chase. The Panthers dump and chase a lot more often than you'd think for a Stanley Cup winning team. And while they recover it well, but the difference is they shoot the puck when they're supposed to. They don't look for the perfect goal.
Yep.
And
they get the
that's a
puck
huge
through
difference.
from the point. Yes.
Yes. And they get the puck through from the point, which the Rangers can't do if it's not Adam Fox, which is absolutely absurd.
I think it said in that article that I alluded to, the Mercogliano and Shayna Goldman article, that the Rangers' best guy at getting the puck through from a rate perspective is actually Matthew Robertson and then Fox. And I think they're the only two in the top 100. And it's like, if you look at some of the other better teams, contenders, they have like Cale Makar is like, it's like Makar and Taves are like second and fifth, right? Like, you know, they are at getting the puck through from the point. So no, look, there are a lot of issues. I think to your point, JL, like, you're right. They're not taking advantage of the shooting opportunities that are there. They don't play quickly enough. Still, this is one of those, it relates back to like the speed versus quickness conversation and like this, you know, individual speed versus team speed. Again, like, I don't look at Florida and see a lot of great skaters. I see a team that plays very quickly as a unit of 5, right? It's 3 quick passes and a shot, 2 quick passes and a shot, right? Dump in, recover, back to the point, shot, rebound, another shot, cycle it again, rebound. Like it just happens so much more quickly for these other teams, and the Rangers can't get to that pace. So, all right, let's get to the questions, because I know there's quite a few. And where do you want to start?
Want to start on Blue Sky?
First, I'll start on Blue Sky. Just want to say thank you to everyone again for sending us your questions. We always like to emphasize that we always like to answer them, especially if it means I can take a shot at Dave. But thank you again to everyone who sent out questions. So this first question comes from the Gerard Gallant slander account at allentanderson.bsky.social. And he asks, for producer JL, I know this is going to be a bit off topic, but I might as well get this one out of the way first.
Yes, take this one.
For producer JL, you've mentioned the controversial, quote, Central Jersey, unquote, area of New Jersey multiple times. I would like to know, where does Central Jersey begin and end? Can you name some border cities? Okay, at least in my opinion, having lived here basically most of my life, I think once you go past Fort Lee, up that area, that's kind of where North Jersey kind of begins, maybe, because that's kind of really the tippy top of New Jersey, and then you're pretty much just in the boonies up there. So that's probably where Central Jersey ends, is like around the Fort Lee area where the George Washington Bridge is at. If you're going southbound, I want to say Tom's River, because the switch completely flips once you hit Tom's River, where it becomes basically New York. Then it starts to hit Philly. Then the further down you go, you get Dover, not Dover, you get Dover, you get like the Delaware sort of Cape May kind of thing. So I would say, at least on the eastern side of the state, I can't really speak too much about the western side in the sense of like where the lines are, but I'd say Fort Lee, and I could be totally off base about this, but Fort Lee is probably the northernmost part where you could say, all right, now I'm kind of in North Jersey. And then I want to say Tom's River, because now you're near the shore, but you're not at Atlantic City yet, but you're not too far from Atlantic City. So it's probably between Fort Lee and Tom's River. So that's just my opinion.
Real quick, I don't want to stay on this, and we have so many questions to get to. Fort Lee is way up there, so I think most people would disagree. But by the way, I don't think there's a right answer to this. All I'll say is that Central Jersey definitely does exist. Yes. I would say that it's probably closer to where you live, JL. I don't want to give your location away, but like, more like around in like the low 130s of the Garden State Parkway in terms of exits. So like maybe just like south of Edison as you get towards like the Raritan, the Driscoll Bridge, over into like Sayreville and the Amboys and stuff like that. I think that's kind of where Central Jersey kind of starts. I think Tom's River is like the perfect line though that separates Central from South at the southern end. I think Fort Lee's a little north because you're above New York City at that point, and you're running out of state pretty quick up there. By the time you hit you're like 10 minutes from the New York border up at Fort Lee. So, but yeah, no, that's a great question. And like I said, my main take is that it 1000% exists because it does, and I grew up there too. So, I lived in a town, grew up in a town, Manalapan, that is pretty much, if you look at a map of New Jersey, it's like almost the dead central point of the state. So it exists.
Okay, great. I know Dave's not going to have a thought on that because he lives out in that. He lives
On
in
Long
country, so-
Island.
He lives
Move on.
Yeah, you live
Long
on. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you live in Islander country, so no one cares. Sorry. Next question. This comes from Tyler, our friend. Well, he has two actually. The first one he asks is league question: why are there so many loser points among all NHL teams this season? And do you think this is a good or bad thing? And then he goes on to ask if the assumption is the Rangers are once again going to miss the playoffs, what's a more likely outcome? Panarin with his full no move is dealt for a couple picks and a prospect, or Lafreniere is dealt in a change of scenery type mood for another team's change of scenery candidate.
Dave, go first since you sat out the Jersey question.
All right. So why are there so many loser points? I really don't know. That seems to ebb and flow season to season. I don't think coaches play for it necessarily, but I would like to see a 3-2-1 point system to hopefully weed out some of those.
Mm-hmm.
Is it wrong if I say both are equally likely regarding Panarin and Lafreniere? I think Panarin, since he's a rental, is more likely to be traded sooner because trading Lafreniere means trading the contract for another 5-6 years, however long that contract is. And you got to find somebody who's willing to take that contract and has something similar to give back, which is why I initially thought Byfield in LA, but I think they're both equally likely, but Panarin would be done first because he's easier to move as a rental.
Yeah, nothing to add there from me.
Yeah, same. Because it kind of seems, that's kind of really it at this point, considering the way the roster's constructed. I will say, the loser points question. I think that's primarily because of just how the season is constructed this year. You have the Olympic break, which seems like it's going to happen because I don't know what the contingency plan would be if they can't send all their players out there, which, they're already
It's going to happen.
dug in too deep.
This happens
gonna
with
have to
every
do it.
major sporting event now. Like it's
Yeah.
going to happen. They'll figure it out. People are going to they're going to abuse the laborers who are building that arena. Let's make no mistake about that, because all of these corporations and committees and organizations that run these major tournaments like the IOC and FIFA are horrible, soulless, organizations.
Yeah.
Who will do whatever they can to save their money and grow their profits for all of the corrupt people that run these things. That thing's going to get done, and they're going to play hockey in it. So don't worry about that. Worry about the people that are building it, because I'm sure they are not being treated well. But that thing will get done, and the NHL is going to play. I think you're right, JL. The condensed schedule, the games aren't as good, frankly. Like, everybody's just tired. The pace is not as fast. And but to answer just one thing to add on to answer the last part of that question, it's terrible for the league, frankly. You can't separate the good teams from the bad teams. It's the veil of competitive balance. It's not really competitive balance. I mean, even a team like the Kings, right? You mentioned them, Dave. They are in a playoff spot. They have a negative goal differential, 88 goals scored, 90 allowed. And their only reason they're in that spot is because they have 9 loser points. They have a losing record overall. So it's horrible for the league. And I couldn't agree with, Dave Moore and everybody else who advocates for the 3-2-1 system.
Yeah, I'm definitely for that. And I will say this, though, just before we go on to the next question. I don't know if Dave had any thoughts on that. This is actually low key, as the kids like to say. It's actually good for the Rangers because that means that in this sort of weird transition season that it was supposed to be, but does it really? They're not saying it is, but it really is going to be a transition season that they're basically going to fall under the guise of actually, they know they need to make moves, but they're actually going to be still somewhat in it, which is, I think, all you can really ask for after what happened last season. So I think it's fine. Plus, like as a pure consumer of the sport, it's nice that they're playing like every other day. But
Yeah,
obviously, you can
yeah,
tell you could tell they're beat up, and obviously,
yeah.
we're already approaching late December, going into January, and the fact that they're like half the league is still hanging around. I mean, the NHL is salivating over that because there's so many different ways you can go. But anyways, all right. I don't know if Dave wanted to add anything
Nope,
towards the
nothing else.
points thing. Okay. All right. This next question comes from DSAM at dsam1921.bsky.social. And DSAM asks, is the dream of Cooley being a permanent top 6 player for this team, is it worth another extended shot right now, or do you think there's no real urgency to move him from the third line, at least for this season?
No urgency. If he plays up, he plays up. Let the kid grow in what is working for him, which is being paired with Noah Laba, who's hopefully growing enough to be your future second line center. He certainly has the ceiling. If those two can move up together in the lineup, great, because you'll have that established chemistry. But this is a lost year, let's be real. Let the kids grow and be comfortable and gain confidence, and then shift them up in the lineup as need be when the rest of the roster is figured out, like what they do with Panarin and shit like that.
Yeah, I would also just add to that it's totally fine if he's a middle six winger because that is a very common thing in the NHL, and there are some instances where it makes sense, maybe matchup wise, or he gets hot. Yeah, play him on the second line, right? It's a shift or two more a period. I think we do get hung up a little bit on like you see the list, the beat writers will list out the lineup, and you almost are like, all right, well, I have to think less of this guy because he's only on the third line, and it's like if there's a lot of 5-on-5 play in a game, the difference in ice time between the second and third line is usually like within a minute or two or a minute and a half, right? It's one or two shifts over the course of a game. So I don't think there's a material difference. Like I just want to see Cooley remain consistent and productive. And, look, if he becomes a top 6 winger, that's a massive win for the Rangers. He was a third round pick. It'll end up, it's already a good pick by Drury. I think he deserves credit for that one. But I wouldn't get too hung up on like his ultimate place in the lineup. I will say that if the Rangers were contenders, the current version of Will Cooley is a third liner on a contending team. I think if he's on your top 6, you're probably not a serious contender. But that's not a slight to the player. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with
and
that.
I think there is room. Yeah, I agree with that too. I think there is room for improvement because he has definitely shown some flashes of skill. I think it's just more of we need to be patient with him like we were with pretty much every other prospect. Progress isn't linear, so everybody's going to develop at a different rate. I think Cooley's game can fit well into what Mike Sullivan's asking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if the opportunity came to where he was producing a bit more on the third line and he could fit into a top 6 role, then great, because that's what they were anticipating. That's one of the reasons why they traded Chris Kreider, is because they wanted Cooley to, potentially fill that bill, which he can. And Mike Sullivan has even said it himself that they're looking to see what they can get from him. And I think he has it. I just think that he's just not going to make the jump quicker than we thought, which is fine because then that allows for growth, and more time with Noah Laba isn't a bad thing. So, all right. So before we get into the questions on the blog, did you guys want me to read the question we got through text?
Yes.
I'm guessing.
Yep.
Okay. So this I said this is, you said this is from Jess. So
That's from Jess.
friend
Yeah.
of the show,
her
Jess.
username
Yep.
per se. Okay, so she
I
asks.
can't remember.
This
Yeah,
is for Dave.
Yeah.
Oh, I have it here. She says for Dave, since you can buy a jersey now, who are you buying? And then I guess
That's
me
it.
and Rob can answer since who would we get? At least maybe for Dave or for ourselves. I don't know. But Dave, who do you want to buy on your jersey now that the jersey curse is essentially lifted?
No one. No
Okay,
one.
don't be dense.
I
There's
am not
nobody. Come on.
attached. So there are two things. One, I am still annoyed at the way they treated the way they did the whole Kreider video and cutting to commercial. That felt like an unnecessary commercial cash grab to me. So I'm annoyed at that. And until we figure out what the hell Drury's doing, I'm not buying any player jersey on this team. Not because I don't like the players, but because I don't know what the fuck is going on, and I don't really know if I want to contribute, say, a Fox jersey, and then we see what Quinn Hughes got on the market, and maybe Fox winds up on the market in the offseason, or a Lafreniere jersey, and then Lafreniere gets traded 3 seconds later. I'm kind of done with that shit. So it's either going to be a Fire Drury jersey or a blank jersey, and I'm not entirely sure which one.
I kind of love the Fire Drury idea.
Jess said she would pay for it if I got the Fire Drury jersey. So I don't know. I'm kind of that does sway me a little bit.
I love that idea. I think you should go Fire Drury.
I'd
Real
go
quick,
Alaba.
if I had to buy one right now, I would probably buy either Alaba or Trocheck. I do like Trocheck. I think he'll be here at least through the remainder of his contract, and 16 is my favorite number.
If I had to pick, well, I mean, I'm probably the wrong.
You already
person to
have the
ask
whole
this,
roster,
but,
so I think you're exempt from the
as I
question.
look at my Adam
Yeah.
Fox,
You're like,
jersey.
you're right. Yeah.
I know.
You're buying a Carson
No, I had to
Soucy
get
jersey
another one,
tomorrow.
which I am trying to get another one. You know what? Honestly, I would buy that just so I can get on Dave for that. But I think if I'm gonna buy another jersey, which I do have to get a Winter Classic one, but if I'm gonna try and get a Winter Classic, I'm gonna try and get Will Cooley. So
Nice. That's a good one.
that's my next one.
I
Or
think he'll
Gabe
be around
Perreault if
too.
he's still here, which I think I might end up hitting a Gabe
Yeah,
Perreault
I wonder with him. I guess
jersey
he's
sooner
probably
than
gonna.
later,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's probably gonna stick with that number. But I hate when they get like. I hated that they gave Keandre Miller 79 and he just kind of like kept it. Like I'm like, why are you wearing an offensive lineman's number in hockey when you're a defenseman? Because I don't think he like wanted that number. I think it was just like the randomly assigned number when he came to camp. But I guess Perreault's gonna stick with 94. That's I don't know. It's a weird number, but that's just my opinion.
96 is the number.
I like
Everybody
94.
Charlie Conway.
Charlie Conway. All right, let's go. We got more questions. And my computer battery starts dying on these podcasts now.
Yeah,
That's how
all
long they are.
Yeah, we're also at an hour, so
All
let's
right.
rapid
So now
fire.
we're on the- All right, so here we go. We're on the blog now, and so first question comes from Mr. Whiskers. Great name, by the way. What can we realistically get for Panarin in return? Would Lafreniere, Schneider, Othman, and a first be enough for Brady Tkachuk? No.
All right. A first and a B prospect for Panarin. That seems to be the going rate for rental wingers, no matter how good they are. It's a first and you're not getting a top prospect. You're getting like the number 4 or the 5 guy in the system. And would Lafreniere, Schneider, Othman, and a first be enough for Brady Tkachuk? No, they're not trading Brady Tkachuk. They're
Right.
not.
And
Move
even if they were, probably not. They probably want Perreault. They want the guy with the higher ceiling. Lafreniere he kind of is what he is at this point. Like he might have another 50 or 60 point season up his sleeve, but Perreault at least has like that 70, 80 point ceiling. And I think teams would rather buy the ceiling in a trade like that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question comes from Spozo. Rate these 1 to 10 on the reason the team is what they are at this point of the season. 1, skill. 2, effort. 3, coaching. 4, roster build.
So each one gets a 1 to 10 rating as to
Yes.
why the Rangers are where they are this year.
Yeah, so 1 to 10 on like based on how they are during the season so far. So like I guess for me, I'd just say skill would be at a 6, effort would be at a 10, coaching would be at a 9, and roster build would be at a 3.
Right. So that's like yeah, I would agree with that roughly. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think to phrase it another way without doing the numbering, because it's a little hard to keep track of in my head. I would say that the roster build is inadequate, and they don't have the pieces to properly compete, score goals, and play the way Sullivan wants them to play and get to the top of the conference. And then skill kind of goes hand in hand with the roster build. There is not enough skill on the roster, and that's kind of why they are where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I read that as, one, meaning it has no impact on why the
Right.
Rangers are what they are, and 10, this is the main reason why they are what they are. So roster build and skill are both 10s for me at that point, because they don't have appropriate scoring depth and they don't have skill anymore. And everybody that is skilled is 9,000 years old. So those would both be linked in 10s as to why they are what they are. I think people misevaluate effort.
Agreed.
I do think the power play needs more effort. I'm so sick and tired of watching them not move.
Yeah.
That I
That's
think
also
needs
coaching,
that's
though, the
my
power
biggest
play.
point.
I think
that
that's
is
the coaching,
coaching.
too. Yeah.
So I would
I
put
agree.
effort at as a 5, because special teams effort needs work. And coaching I'd put at a 5 as well, because I am not a big fan of all the lineup decisions. I do think they needed to try Perot and Othman in the top 6 when they've been called up.
Agreed.
But I also can't really blame them for putting, say, Connor Sheary in with Trocheck and Miller, and then putting that line out there against the, say, Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich line. They completely shut them down. So if that's a shutdown line, fine, but that goes to roster build.
Right.
There's
Because your
not
shutdown
enough
line.
skill.
Yep.
Yeah. So I also think Sully could do with a little more East-West coaching right now, because he's got East-West on his roster. So start coaching the team to have a little more East-West offense while not sacrificing defense.
Yeah. Well said, Dave. Nothing to add from me.
Same. All right, next question comes from NYC Crash. How was your day, guys? When was the last time you felt really alive?
I love that.
Asking somebody who's got 2 kids under 5 that's just rough. That's probably
Although,
pretty
like,
loud.
watching your kids, I recently came from my 5-year-old's like holiday performance, like all the kids sing holiday songs, and it was amazing. I felt very alive in that moment. Sports wise, I mean, look, it's not really Ranger related. I mean, the Kreider hat trick might be a good one.
Yes.
The Knicks beating the Boston Celtics made me feel about as alive as I've ever felt. That was so great. I have very deep hatred in my heart for all Boston teams, but specifically the Celtics, who have very snarky fans. And really truly like believe the Knicks and their fans are like beneath them in like a class system type of way. It was amazing to beat them the way that they beat them. Obviously, I don't feel great about Jason Tatum's Achilles blowing up, but the Knicks had also already blown them out by the time that happened, and they were up 3-1 in the series. That was probably the best Knicks win I've seen in my adult life, for sure. And they look very ready to potentially win a championship. So hopefully if the Garden's dark for the Rangers in the spring, it might be a very long spring into early summer for the Knicks. We'll see. But no, yeah, I mean, look, having kids could be exhausting, but also they do make you feel alive in a good way.
Yes. So it's funny that you say that, because about 10 minutes ago, my wife texted me. She got a call from daycare. My 2-year-old shoved a Cheerio up her nose, because of course she fucking shoved a Cheerio up her nose. Luckily, this kid has learned how to blow her nose and it came right out. But I kind of feel alive from that, because, hey, my kid is finding new ways to make me go, what the hell? But then she's also potty training herself. Like, we didn't plan on doing any potty training until it gets a little warmer out, but she's forcing the issues. So she knows how to hold it till she gets on the potty, and then she pees, and it's great. So I'm like, oh, this kid's a lot smarter than she is letting us know by shoving a Cheerio up her nose.
Be getting out of diapers soon. That's a big one.
Wow.
Yes. Do you know how much, just in terms of Costco costs for diapers, and then daycare has an added fee for diapers and wipes?
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I'll come to figure that out sooner.
Yeah. So, and also my 4-year-old, she goes to gymnastics twice a week, and one of the one of the moms came out of the bathroom with her daughter and said, "Oh yeah, we just as we were coming in, yours was walking out. She went on her own, wiped on her own." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. I don't have to do anything." So I love seeing that growth from them. They're I vent a lot on this, but they're the sweetest kids. They really are. My girls are amazing, and they really do make me feel alive on a daily basis
Well, being that I don't have any kids,
that you know of.
I feel alive. Well, okay,
Yes.
let's not get ahead of ourselves here, David. Um, corny answer here. I feel alive every day. I'm one of those people that like appreciates every single moment that is afforded to me. Sports wise, I think the last time I'd say I really felt alive, honestly, I feel every time I go to the Garden. Honestly, even though they lost on Monday when I was there, I was also there Saturday against Montreal, and that was a cool game to see.
That was an amazing game. That was one of the best games of the year. That was awesome.
Yeah,
totally.
yeah,
That was like a life affirming. I was texting people being like, "This is why we still watch this team because they still have nights like this." It was amazing.
Exactly. Right. So it's last time I felt alive is outside of just the fact that I enjoy every single day of my life is whenever I go to the Garden or if I go to Citi Field, especially if they're playing the Yankees. And if I'll go to Citi Field or at least right now it's the Madison Square Garden because if you really think about it, let's put this quickly in perspective. We are so blessed to live not even most whoever's in the New York City area, if you're an hour, 45 minutes or whatever, we have easy access to the world's most famous arena. I can go and see my favorite hockey team in the world's most famous arena. Like I know we get on the Rangers for being crappy sometimes and they haven't really given us what we wanted. But I mean, let's be real here. If you've gone to any other arena, PPG Paints is nice. I've been out to Pittsburgh. It's a nice arena. The Wells Fargo Center, it's like Xfinity Live now, whatever it's called. Nice arena, right? TD Garden in Boston. The fans like Dave said, not Dave, Rob said, they're very fickle, but it's a nice arena. The Capitals play, Capital One Center, the Capital One Arena. Okay, none of those arenas are Madison Square Garden. The Prudential Center. Come on, really? You really think I wanted to go see the New Jersey Devils play in the middle of Newark? I get to go to Madison Square Garden and watch my favorite hockey team play in the world's most famous arena. How do you not feel alive? Granted, the team may not be great, but still, it's the fact that you're going to the Garden.
Yeah. No, it's great.
It's a thing. So that's when I was there on Saturday when they won against Montreal, that was, sports wise, that was a really nice night. And I got a pretty cool shot of it on my phone. All right. Next question. This comes from Blue Shirts. If we traded Fox over the summer like the Canucks did with Hughes, would we be better or worse now and long term as a team? Not take into account how crappy Drury is making trades just as a what if.
Oh boy. So I'm assuming Fox gets a Hughes package.
Yeah.
Or does he get more since he's a right-handed defenseman?
Maybe.
Probably gets more.
Maybe. Let's just call it comparable for the sake of argument, though.
So a first, a legitimate top 6 center,
yep,
and a high ceiling young defenseman.
Yes, and a legitimate. I mean, that Liam Ogren scored already. I mean, they basically got 3 NHLers in the trade. Let's look at it that way.
Yeah,
of varying levels.
Could you imagine what a team like Dallas would give up for that? A right-handed defenseman that can move the puck?
Yeah.
But let's go with...
You would have to assume Miro Heiskanen gets traded back.
Well, I don't want. He's 31 years old.
He's 30. I don't want him.
I don't want him. No, you want young. You want their best young defenseman. You probably want... The only guy that's over the age of 22 that I would want in a trade like that is Hintz. Would they give us Rupee Hintz in that trade? Or Wyatt Johnston, right? I mean, it's got to be one of the two.
So how about Utah?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea.
Or San Jose.
Yeah, but San Jose's. I mean, they're not going to get rid of Graf or Smith or Celebrini, though.
Well, no. Okay, but they also
maybe Graf. Is that his name? Colin Graf.
Colin Graf. Yeah. There's also Eklund. I mean, there's a lot that you could possibly get for an Adam Fox.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Let me just say this. Adam Fox and Igor Shesterkin are kind of like the third rail in these types of discussions because people can't even imagine a world where they're traded, and that's just how the NHL is. I think the Rangers should be open to all possibilities, honestly. And I think if you look at the way teams operate in other sports, particularly basketball and baseball, these types of trades happen a lot because it is a way to fast track a rebuild. And the Rangers are, even with the win over the Blues, and even if they win their last 3 games going into Christmas, they are closer to needing to rebuild / fully retool this roster than they are to making a run at a Stanley Cup. And you could easily argue, yep, and Adam Fox would be part of that solution, but how long is it going to take with your limited assets to fully rebuild this thing? And what age is he going to be at that point? I think there's a definite argument that they should not have given Igor Shesterkin that long-term contract, knowing where this team what was potentially heading trajectory-wise. Because to me, if you're rebuilding, like a goalie is wasted in a rebuild. You should really only be trying to secure a top flight goalie when you're ready to contend, because Igor Shesterkin can't help you win games right now. And so anyway, an NBA team in the same position as the Rangers would be willing to trade all of their star players, and mostly for draft picks, but that's how the NBA works. But a baseball team who, sees their core getting older and also might need to reset their salary situation would be willing to trade their star player. And I feel like with the Rangers, this is a little bit of a third rail, and it's like they'll never do that. Adam Fox, USA Hockey, Mike Sullivan, Chris Drury, like they should be willing to listen, because think about the names you guys just threw out there as potential, targets. And if you said, not in a memo that gets leaked to the media, but if you let your fellow executives know, like, hey, I'm listening on Fox, you're going to get some wild offers. And I think you have to do that. You're not doing your job as a GM if you don't.
all right. So let's go LA Kings.
Well, if you want Kempe, maybe you can.
No.
Again, he's probably too old, but yeah.
Not Kempe. This is where you land your Byfield, your Brant Clark.
Yep.
And a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Plus a legit prospect. Let's, I don't know, I don't know LA's prospect pool that well. I know I was trying to fake it 10 minutes ago.
I don't think it's that great, truth be told.
Yeah. I mean, Brant Clark would be the specific flip in terms of position. Quentin Byfield, you have to get that kind of a young center.
For sure.
And then it's for Fox. I think those 3 assets would get it done.
Yeah.
I'd do that.
Yeah, if it had to come down to that, I wouldn't mind it. But just to add to your point, obviously it's not the thing of the question, but they're really not going to trade both those guys. But
no, they're not.
That. So
no.
Well, yeah, that's the kind of comp you're looking at.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think would be good. Honestly, I think though. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how old Adrian Kempe is. Is he over 30?
Yes.
He's
29.
I really think that if you were going to trade Adam Fox
30,
and you would have Brent, is he over 30?
He's going to be 30 next season.
Okay, so realistically speaking, I think he. Okay, I think he would have to be a part of that. Honestly, it's Byfield, Clark, Kempe, and a pick. Yeah, you do it.
No, that's too much from LA's side. Too much.
It would probably be too much from LA. Yeah.
Okay, then.
Yeah, and I'd rather have Byfield than Kempe.
Yeah,
much rather have Byfield than Kempe. He's a decade younger.
Yeah. I guess maybe I shouldn't order my Adrian Kempe Rangers jersey then. Okay. Yeah, this next question comes from Two Line Passes, and they ask, why do they call it icing? Is it in reality a 2-line pass?
Well, with the new rules nowadays, it's just an offsides because
offsides without the line change.
And why do they call it icing? Because it's the icing on the cake that you're exhausted. You just had to throw the puck down the other end, and now you got to take a face off with no rest.
I'd say look it up on Wikipedia. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, you can't say that, Dave. If the fact that the rule was there, the naming was there before they changed the rule. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. How do you answer this question? I don't know why.
Okay, so then before they enforced the whole rule where you can't make a line change after an
A
icing,
line
it's
change.
still the icing on the cake that you just had a long shift in your end. You dumped the puck out. Now you still got another face off in your own end. Just the icing on the cake.
Okay.
I'm 99% sure that's not why. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
a dumb joke.
Although
Anyway.
I am very happy that the 2-line pass is no longer a thing.
Yes.
So this next question comes from Midline Shift. They have 3 and 1. I think we've probably already answered one of them, but this seems pretty light to answer. One, why the hell is Connor Sheary? Just kidding. Okay, funny. Number 2, what would be an equivalent offer from the Rangers for Quinn Hughes have looked like? I guess we already answered that. Maybe something like Perot, Schneider, Othman in a first. I'm not sure that would be enough, but what would you?
The Rangers did not have
that. And
the
3,
Rangers did not have the pieces to make that work. They didn't. Period. The Devils had the pieces, but they couldn't clear the 9,000 no-move clauses.
Well, they couldn't do it, so haha, sucks to be you, New Jersey. And then the third one is, who do I have to stab to get an appearance from Becky on the podcast? Give the people what they want.
Okay, is Midline Shift actually just Jess?
No, I don't think so.
Because that was a direct, Jess is very stabby. So
maybe it is.
It might be Jess.
Who knows? Maybe. All right. Next question comes from Sal Merck. Okay, we have a good coach, a bad GM, and a mediocre team. How do we make this team into a playoff team in the next 2 years? I'll answer that real quick. Hope and a prayer, and make sure that the pieces fall in properly. I still think they can do it. I just don't think it's going to happen this season.
I like longtime one-times reply. Trade places with Colorado.
Trade places with Colorado.
Ideally, that would be the answer. Yeah. I got nothing. Well, what can they do? I mean, we're flirting with Dark Ages stuff again.
We are. I mean, they got to be really creative, and they have to be. They've got to do the right thing in the moment, like with Panarin, for example. Like the fact that it's one thing for us as fans. He goes on one of those runs where he has 10 points in 6 games. We're like, man, maybe they could just keep him around. And no, you can't operate that way if you're a serious executive trying to build a winning team. Like this is when you trade that guy at the deadline and you get the draft picks for him. Then you get creative. And look, maybe you do open up the lines on Adam Fox. Like it is going to take that level of at least exploring all of your options. You can't just bandage this thing up. It's not like a Band-Aid situation anymore. It's well beyond that. So, but also what I will say is, these things can happen quickly in the NHL, and with the cap going up and with, the way that contracts, can be moved, there are possibilities, but, Drury, he's gotten himself out of some bad contracts and bad situations. And I feel like no one's going to help you out now. Like, he's going to have to make really fair offers and put good pieces on the table to try and improve this team. It's a really difficult situation. And I agree with you, Dave. Like they are close. And there have been some nights this year that it's been very reminiscent of the 2000, 2001, 2002 Rangers. Like it just does not look very good. And it's because the team is old. And that's really what it comes down to. I agree with you earlier. Like it's not an effort thing. They play hard, but there's just not enough juice. That's what I keep. That's like, if I had to title this season, if I was making like the recap video so far of the 25-26 Rangers, it would be the 2025-26 New York Rangers. Not enough juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. I will say though, I think the team last season kind of echoed more of the Dark Ages team than this season.
Well, yeah, for sure, yeah.
the thing that I will say to that before I go on to this next question is, before I can really begin to say that the Dark Ages are being flirted with heavy, I just need to see, because you have to remember too, is that the coach and GM, they're going to work hand in hand at this point. So I still have to give at least Mike Sullivan with Drury some benefit of the doubt because this is his guy. So maybe that will, maybe alter some thinking, or presumably probably try to influence some sort of decisions when it comes to roster building, because he might actually have more of a say now than he did when he was in Pittsburgh, because, that's all Sidney Crosby. So I think that I just need to see what it would be like, at least for a season or two, what having Mike Sullivan's influence around Chris Drury would mean for the construction of the roster. I cannot fully say they're going to go straight into the Dark Ages. Yeah, they're an older team like those other teams were, but at least in this sort of iteration of the Rangers now, is there's young guys that could come up and fill spots, whether it's a top 6 spot or a bottom 6 spot. I mean, we're not throwing Roman Ender or Richie Pilon or Dale Purinton out there in the back end. You actually have guys who actually have skill. We're not tossing out freaking what. And Todd Harvey wasn't a terrible player either, but I think there's more skill in the pipeline. I think Adam Sikora probably has more skill than Todd Harvey, and this is no offense to Todd Harvey. I think Todd Harvey was a decent player, and I think Drury's willingness to just try and get rid of certain things, I think, kind of adds that. Those old Rangers didn't really seem to be willing to get rid of a lot of what the 94 core was. And I think that they're just trying to build a roster completely different than what they had in the past. But anyways, that's my thought on that. So this last question, this is more of like a question statement sort of thing. So I'll just go through it at once and we can give our thoughts. This comes from N, and this is our last question. So we'll wrap up right after this. This comes from NFTRH, and they ask, where does the myth come from that Ranger fans will never accept the rebuild? That is obviously such BS, since 90% of us are out here clamoring for a hard retool or rebuild. It's not the fans, it's the owner. But anyways, is it a myth promoted by management ownership as a cover-up for the fact that they all want as much gate concession revenue as possible every season, keeping corporate pink hats in their luxury boxes and season tickets by just being good enough for a round or two in the playoffs each year? Is it pure ignorance on ownership's part? Is it a combination of all these factors? Can a team playing in the heart of the most business developed city in the world actually do things organically with the corporatocracy that surrounds it, topped with an owner who is not really a hockey fan, if he's a fan at all? It feels like we are cursed, but maybe some of the above are the real mechanics of failure and success business-wise, which is all they may care about. Related to the above, is Chris Drury a hockey man or a corporate suit butt kisser?
Okay, there's a lot there.
That is,
Basically, the two
that is
questions.
quite the statement. I like that.
Yeah,
That's
I like
good.
that last one. Is he a kiss ass?
Yeah.
I love it. This is two questions. It's basically, is Drury a good GM, and where's this Ranger fans will never accept a rebuild thing coming from, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, also, so the point of the question also is that, right, will the owner not allow it because he needs to sell tickets? Broadly speaking, that's the case for any sports franchise. What you have to do if you are a good GM is do both. You have to be a little bit of a kiss ass to your owner, of course. But the owner's going to tell you, like, okay, well, I have a product to sell. So how's my product going to look? And you basically have to do the job of saying it's going to look bad for 2 or 3 years, but it's going to be potentially winning championships in 4 or 5. Like that's the goal, right? That's that in a nutshell. That's what every rebuild is supposed to be. The issue is, of course, that it's much harder it's easier to say than do. And, there always are going to be the ownership and business interests that are going to push back against like what might be the best hockey plan. I totally agree, by the way, that on the fan side, that is bullshit. Like, and that's a sports radio talking point. That's all that is. That is just years of guys like Mike and the Mad Dog getting on the radio and saying like New York fans won't accept the rebuild. Like, cause it's a fun soundbite and it's easy to say. And it's a great way to sort of like express that you're pissed off about losing, but doing it in a little bit more of a creative and pseudo analytical way. That's just a sports radio talking point. That is not real. Most people understand. And to be fair, like we joke about the letter, but the letter was very smart by the Rangers. It was the right thing to do. They said, hey, look, we got to trade these guys. We're going to try to build it back up and compete again. And they did, right? They kept their promise. They traded their guys. They were back in the conference final 3 years later. At a certain point, I don't know what people want. It was not the perfect rebuild. There's plenty of issues now. It clearly wasn't sustainable beyond a few years, but the Rangers were also a really good team for those 3 or 4 years. So anyway, yeah, I know we want to wrap up here, but Dave, maybe you want to take it from there and your interpretation of that question, but those are my initial thoughts.
I mean, the narrative that New York in general doesn't accept rebuilds ever is one of those things that we've been hearing for 30 years. They said that about the Yankees, and then the Yankees went and rebuilt behind, Jeter, Bernie, Mariano. That was a rebuild. The Rangers just did a rebuild. The Islanders are rebuilding. The Devils did a rebuild. Granted,
the Knicks did a rebuild.
The Knicks did a rebuild. The Jets and the Giants are perpetually rebuilding and look like shit every year. The Bills technically are a New York team. They did a somewhat of a rebuild. I mean,
a successful rebuild too.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just
trying to do that right now.
Yeah, and I don't know where it comes from. It's one of those things that is a talking point that is meant to get people like us talking about it, and I don't buy into that. Any generalizations that say, oh, a city will never allow this, or oh, a team will never allow this, don't speak in absolutes. It just doesn't end well. And then, is Chris Drury a hockey man or a corporate suit / kiss ass? I think it's both. He's definitely kissing Dolan's ass because of how he got the role to begin with. And you actually have to do it anyway in order to please the billionaire owners.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Drury has a general idea of how to execute a trade in a vacuum, but I don't think he has an idea of how to put those trees that are the trades into the overarching direction of a team, which is the forest. I think he still needs to figure that part out of the job, which is he needs a direction on what he wants the team to look like, and he needs to fill the roster with guys that can do that. And he hasn't. We've seen trades in a vacuum that look great, but like the JT Miller trade, for example, this is a good one. Great trade in a vacuum. He gave up essentially a first-round pick and Victor Mancini, because I feel bad saying that about Hedl. I loved him, but Hedl is a non-factor in that trade, and the Rangers got a 100-point player in that trade, but they got a 32-year-old 100-point player, yet they went and they sold at the deadline. They're saying they need to get younger and faster, but yet they went and traded for JT Miller. So how the hell does that work? That's the crux of the issue. There's no direction. And until there's a direction, how can we say he's truly good at his job?
Right.
Totally.
I'll briefly just touch on the question because, so like you guys said, I agree with the sentiment that New York fans will never accept a rebuild. That's complete nonsense. They would, and it's happened across multiple sports. Again, the point of ownership, trying to get people to come in. I don't think money's an issue with Dolan, with Madison Square Garden. I know he wants his teams to win. Granted, he may not be invested as them, at least with the Rangers, as he is the Knicks, but he wants them to win because that's more money in his pocket. So that just goes without saying.
He absolutely wants them.
And I guess it's just, a lot of what's happening is just kind of just bad timing or just like bad timing of certain things. That's it. But the team is still in somewhat of a shape where that they can still try to get mileage of what they had. But I think that instead of it just being a retool, it's going to be more of like a rebuild. It's going to be a retool. And I think fans will accept that. I think Dolan has accepted that it's going to be a retool, not a rebuild, because, he has to sign off on all this stuff, of course. Can they do things organically? I mean, it's New York City, it all depends on what Dolan and Drury want. What is that? Who knows? There's a lot. There is a way to break this question down. There's a lot, but we're getting towards the end, so we won't do that. I mean, we kind of already did to a degree. And is Chris Drury a hockey man or a corporate suit butt kisser? It's like you said, he has to be both. I mean, you kind of have to. But
yeah. There's always business stuff at play that I think a lot of fans are a little bit ignorant to, which is okay. We care about the hockey. We don't care about the business, and that's why. across sports, when Hal Steinbrenner starts complaining about the Yankees' profit margins, fans rightfully get pissed off because we don't care about that. We don't care about the money in your pocket. We care about the results of the team on the ice or on the field. So, and a general manager has to deal with both sides. That's why the name of the job is general manager. There are business aspects to that job, not just hockey operations aspects to that job. All right. Great show as always, JL and Dave. I want to wish you both a Merry Christmas. I'm not sure that we'll record before Christmas. We'll have to figure out our schedule for the next week or two with holidays and time off, etc. But Dave, are we going to get one more Blue Seats After Dark before the break here? What's going on with that? And
that continues.
Nice.
That continues every week.
Dave.
Again, thank you to the Patreon subscribers, and thank you, JL, for producing the link every week so that I can record. I hope you guys like it. And as we get closer to the Olympic break, what will be a roster freeze for the Olympics? Maybe we'll see a couple of trades and more rumors pop up.
Yes, we'll keep an eye on the market, and obviously with a little bit more of a flexible schedule too. If there happens to be a major trade or breaking news of some sort, we'll try and get on and record kind of an emergency pod if needed. Other than that, we're watching the games. We're hoping this thing stabilizes and the Rangers do make a season out of it, but we know there might be some more shakeups on the horizon. So thanks everyone for listening. Have a great holiday, and we'll talk to you soon.